in terms of watering too much or too little, if you overwater citrus, especially if like you have it in a sunroom and it's sunny, you'll actually see it wilt. And you won't get this beautiful bright green foliage. It'll actually kind of be a little off color and the leaves will start to curl and cup. Plus, it's kind of like making a cake. You know, if you stick your finger in the pot and it comes out and you've got some dirt and it's kind of cool and moist, that's a good adequate water level. But if it comes out and it's just like dust, you need to water it. Some other things that affect citrus, and it's just part of the game, so to speak. They can get a thing called leaf miner, and it's a little thing. A moth lays its eggs, and then the larvae comes through, and it tunnels through the foliage, and you got these little like tunnels through the foliage. Ironically, they only attack healthy plants. So if your plant's diseased and sick and not growing, you're probably not going to see much leaf miner. But when you see all this bright green growth and everything else, that's chances are you're going to see it. There's really not much you can do about it. Just if you see it start forming, just pick it off. It's difficult to spray it with a contact killer because a lot of it is the moths come out at night. So unless you're going to wait for it in the middle of the night, you're not going to get it. There are systemic chemicals you can put into the soil that the tree will draw up, but it takes a little time for it to do that. And normally that you would have to start like March or April when the plant's really active to take it up. And that helps prevent it because then once they get in there and they bite the leaf, they're going to die off and then you're not going to have all the issues. Back to the thing about fruit, like I said, don't worry about some of this stuff falls off. But as the tree gets bigger, there exists. A lot of citrus is brittle. So the other thing you want to do is like with other fruit things, when you go drive by an apple orchard or a peach orchard and you look at those trees, the grower goes through and actually thins it out a lot, so there's more energy actually going to the fruit instead of all the excess foliage in that. So when the tree gets larger, you'll come in there and you start picking off some of the leaves. You may take out some of the twigs, but you just want to kind of open it up a bit because it allows for better airflow, which cuts down on, helps with keeping the insects out because then the plant stays drier up here. You won't get any, less fungal issues, things like that. But as far as anything else, these things are fairly easy to do. They like it hot, they like it sunny, and so when they're most growing, just a lot of water, feed it once a month, and enjoy. Now, when it comes to, I mentioned about trimming, so what you do is probably, again, this all depends on where you live. Like if you're in South Florida, you could be doing this in February, but you'll know as the tree gets bigger, especially if it's being grown in a pot, probably May, June, July is when you're really going to start seeing it because you'll see these branches come out all the way and they'll start arching down, especially when they start setting fruit, the fruit will start pulling it down. At that point is when you want to start trying to thin it because unless you want to grow it just to have a big bush, but if you really look at people that grow this, you'll see a smaller, tighter, compact tree because that way you've got shorter branches that are thicker and sturdier. So it's kind of like the old Christmas tree. You got the big ornaments, they pull the branches, and a lot of those you'd like to put inside. Kind of same principle. So that, and then, it's just when the tree's actively growing. Again, now, as far as pollination and how to really get a lot of fruit, this is why I keep saying, as much as you can keep this tree outside, the better, because that's where you're going to get the best chance for pollination. Because if, something doesn't have to be right next to your lime or your orange or anything else to pollinate it. If it's just out there and somebody's got a tomato plant somewhere, or there's a peach tree somewhere, you see an apple blossom or a cherry blossom, if there's hummingbirds, if there's bees or anything like that, it's going to get pollinated. I've got two that I've kept inside with some house plants that don't flower, and they're loaded with buds, and I've already picked fruit off of one of them. And there's no pollination going on inside that room, but I kept them outside all year, and there was enough going on between all the hummingbirds and bumblebees with the Rose of Sharon that were next to them that's all. Just put it in a place where it's outside is going to get pollinated. Now, the only other thing though is this. Some of these, like I said, some of these trees are grafted. Sometimes there's certain varieties that can be grown from a cutting. All citrus has to go through a thing called a juvenility period. It's kind of like puberty for the plant. So normally a cutting grown plant is going to take a little bit longer, even though it may be tall, to actually see flowers than fruit, because it will grow a lot faster from a cutting, like a Meyer lemon, for example, but it hasn't gone through that juvenility period. So don't get discouraged, because if you see it growing and it's getting bigger and bigger and it looks healthy, that's fine. Probably by the next season, you'll see the flowers, knowing that you're going to have fruit. Whereas if the tree was grafted, it's already a year ahead of the cutting. That's why a lot of times you'll see, or we have recommended that you buy a grafted tree, only because it'll fruit. May be small, may not be edible, but you will see fruit that first year, as opposed to a tree grown from a cutting. This tree's grafted, but if you look at this is a Meyer lemon. This is grown from a cutting. Now, the reason we have some that are grown from cuttings versus something that's grafted like this is, for people that want to have a low bush form type plant, cuttings are ideal. And you can see how fast this tree has grown. This is probably 6 or 7 months old from taking a cutting this big. They'll grow really fast. They're nice and full, they're low, as opposed to having a tree. This is great for a homeowner, this is great for people in patios, things like that. The trees, I mean, ideally, trees are budded and designed because they have the commercial orchardist in mind. Not that it's bad for a homeowner, but a lot of it depends on your personal preferences. You'll still get fruit either way. This one's just gonna do it a little bit quicker just because it's older than this one. Hopefully all this information will be helpful, and if you have any questions, our plant experts are readily available to assist you.